ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon. But I got my baby. Hey, everybody. We're Anita Baker playing in the background, and we're here live. You never know what you're going to see when you welcome to the Roundtable. My name is Robert Bannon. I'm so happy to be. Do you see the glare? The glare on these glasses. I guess that's why you should pay extra for the anti-glare when you host a show that is seen here on the YouTube and the Facebook and the Instagram. And hey, everybody, my name is Robert Bannon. You're watching the 76th edition week of the Roundtable. It's the Roundtable, the last week of Pride. I love Anita Baker. Not a nice person necessarily, per se, they say, but her voice is for everything. Hi, everyone. Welcome. We have a special last week of Pride edition. We're ending Pride with a bang this week. Look, Detroit is here. North Carolina is here. I love you all. My mother is here. My mom made me eggplant parm. Yeah, no carbs in that. Jokes. I'm so happy to be here with you all. We have a really fun show. Should we get to it? Get down to it. Well, it's been a week. It's been a month. It's been a crazy month for us all. Pride has been a really fun, amazing week. I hope you had a wonderful Pride. If you celebrated in New York or wherever you're from, I'm excited for you all to be here. Yes, the Roundtable family is here. You all are here. Good to see you all. I'm so happy to have you all here. You warm my little heart. For sure. We had a fun week this week. I got the chance to go to a couple of events that I wanted to tell you all about. Shout out to everyone at Rock and Roll Man, which is playing now. Marie, you'd love it. Rock and Roll Man is the story of Alan Freed. It is the story of Little Richard, Chuck Berry, and the whole thing. Constantine is in, and I know we've spoken about that, but Joey Pantoliano is there. Joey Pantoliano is from Hoboken. He moved to Cliffside, New Jersey. We talked about that, all of that. Nice guy, really fun conversation. And then, yes, I caught up with Joy Behar, who said, "And who are you?" And I said, "I'm Robert Bannon." And she said, "Oh, that's nice." She was very sweet. Her husband was there, Steve, and it was an interesting night. And I did see Renee Taylor. You know, me and Renee Taylor, the mom from The Nanny, have a little history together. Bad history. Like she stole something of, she took my recording equipment. We had an argument at her house. This sounds like a fake story. I'm going to ramble it, and I shouldn't. I'll go a mile a minute as usual, but I hadn't seen her in a long time. And so when I saw her, she didn't really remember me, and she's 91 years old. So God bless you, Renee Taylor, and bygones be bygones. Let's do. Look at you all moving in on my person. The shade. If you're ever in New Jersey, let's do lunch. Lots to talk about. Oh, he will. You all are so cute. Thank you for sharing the love. And then I got to be on the carpet of the Once Upon a One More Time. Yes, the Britney Spears it's not a biopic. It is a musical about Cinderella, Snow White, and women empowerment. And yes, I was giving my best right there on the red carpet. We chatted with Deborah Cox. I sang to Deborah Cox. That's the food god, Kim Kardashian's best friend, Jonathan Shaban. He's wearing his Britney Spears jacket. We talked to my friend Aisha Jackson, who is wonderful and amazing, and I love her. We talked to friend to the show, Telly Leong, who was Aladdin and who was in Allegiance and who was in Godspell. We talked to the one and the only Constantine Rioulis, who stars in Titanic. We love him much, much, much. It was a great event. It's streaming right now on the YouTube. So if you haven't seen it, Marie saw it. She commented. She told me her favorite Britney song is "Sometimes I Run, Sometimes I Fly." What is your favorite Britney song? She asked. And I think my favorite Britney song is a toss-up. It's a little basic, but I love "Hit Me Baby One More Time." I love "Hit Me Baby One More Time." I also love "Stronger." I loved the video. I remembered her dancing on the chair when I was a kid and doing the whole thing. Stronger than yesterday. But I really love "You Want a Hot Body? You want a Maserati? You want a Bugatti? You better work. But that is the best gym song that exists ever. So thanks for that. Oh, Rose says hello. Marie says hilarious. Darius is always up for a chat. Well, Marie listen, Marie throws a really good Christmas party every year. And if you don't, and Darius loves Christmas. So I'm just saying, fa la 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 la. Uh, it's Christmas in July coming up soon. So thank you to everybody at Vivacity, and thank you to everybody at BBB Way for having us on the red carpet. Those videos are up now, and I hope you watch them. And they're really fun, and I have such a great time seeing our friends on the red carpet. That was it. I thought this week was simple. I'm winding out the school year, winding it down. Let's have a shameless plug. 'Cause I'm shameless. Well, I talked about it a little bit on social media. I released an album called Unfinished Business back over the pandemic, and we took it off of the streaming platform because we were signed to a 2-year deal with a record label, and that 2 years is over. And I bought my album back. I wanted to be in control of it. So if you want to hear me sing, How Deep is the Ocean with Jane Monheit, or my version of From a Distance, or the I Think You Knew, which I was so lucky to sing all over Prides everywhere this year, just go to Spotify, go to Tidal, go to Apple Music, go to wherever you listen to music, go to YouTube. And my album is streaming before the new album comes out by the end of the summer. You can catch up with the last one. And now the proceeds actually go to me. And now the streams actually go to me and not to someone else. So I'm really grateful that artists should be empowered to own their art and have a say in the art that they create. That's how I feel. I hope you feel the same way. So Unfinished Business is back in streaming. Tell me your favorite. Tell me, let me know. Me too. I know she's a good one. She's the best. She did so much here for me. We gotta love Mama Rose. Mama Rose is the real deal. She's a pit bull for her babies, like I know many of you are as well. For your babies, right? Moms out there, moms and dads and parents, and even fur parents out there. They count too. I also want to give a big shout out and thank you to the Hawthorne Pride Alliance. I got to sing for them at their event at the Brownstone, and they put on theatrical productions and they put on all sorts of events all year. They're doing a Know Your Status event. They're doing a cabaret night with me and for Valentine's Day for any gender, any kind of couple. There's a whole bunch of events that they do. So thank you for having me as well. And I was going to skip it, but only because I know how much my friend Christine likes it. Here's Hey Friend. Hey. I'll be there for you. How you doing? Well, thank you. Yes, artists should own their art. Amen to that. And Marie's favorite is Once Before I Go. Yes. And when I'm in Richmond Park in July doing my concert on Wednesdays in the concert series in New Jersey, I will be singing it just for you. I may come off the stage with my mic. I may sit right next to you, Marie, and hold your hands and just sing it right to your face because you show so much love. I think all of the streams of that song are you. And I just appreciate you so much. And next time you throw a party and you need someone to sing, I'm coming to sing it for you. Thank you for the love and support. Janelle, speaking of friends, went to Palm Springs. We wished her happy birthday last week. And oh, see, Christine loves it too. Now you're all gonna make me feel bad that I don't do it. I didn't do it in my Pride show, but I promise I'll make up for it. And she went to see our friend Jay Rodriguez's show. She sent me video clips. He did a fantastic job. I remember when he came to see my show in LA, he was talking about doing it and getting back on stage to do a cabaret show. And I'm so excited he was there. I hope you had a great birthday, lattes, and I hope you had a blast. I hope you had a blast for sure. Hey friend, hey. So while we were hey friending, hey, I was standing on the red carpet and I heard someone yelling my name, yelling. They were yelling. Don't die. No, don't die from the heat and don't die from love. You can't die from love. We all need as much love as we possibly could get. But I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it for you in July. Hopefully it's not as hot as it was last year. And Lori Smart, who has been following me on social media forever, she went to the red carpet. She was yelling for me. And I want to just give Lori, she watches the show on repeat after it airs because she's lives a little bit far away and doesn't always catch us live. Thank you, Lori, for the love. It was so nice to meet you and to thank you for calling me over and saying, hey, it's always nice to put a person behind the face and the name of the computer for sure. And I want to thank everybody. I talked about it on the pre-show that is a part of the journey for me, teaching art and education at NJPAC. I started today was my first day in person there after I was done with my other job, and I'm so grateful to be at the premier New Jersey Performing Arts Center space for art and students. They bought an abandoned school in Newark and they converted it into a gigantic arts campus with a black box theater, with a full auditorium, with amazing space. I have this amazing room, and I'm going to teach acting through music from July 10th till August 10th. So I'm so grateful. If you know anyone that wants to go for free, free to learn jazz, dance, hip hop, musical theater, or acting, go to njpac.org. That's njpac.org. And speaking of unfinished business, it's run by the saxophone player Mark Gross, who's on my album. So all Jersey is a little small town world for sure. So, our good friend Marie, who's been talking about my music, told me a while ago about Daniel Ferenzi and how much she thought he was great and wonderful and nice and sweet. And we love Mean Girls, and we do love Mean Girls, and we wear pink on Wednesdays, and we are excited for the movie musical, and we saw it on Broadway, and we had Erica Henningsen here who starred in it on Broadway and all of the fun things. Well, we are excited. I was talking to the boyfriend earlier, and I was saying that he said that I said, well, we lived a lot of lives. And he said, he lived his in parts. I've lived mine at one time. No, not there's no, you're right. It's a problem. So Daniel was here. How about we take a peek at it instead of me rambling? I know you want to see it. He's wait to hear what he says about Elizabeth Taylor, AMFAR, AIDS research, and when he decided to take that on, especially this Pride season. So I don't know Daniel, but I think I know Daniel because he's from New York and he's a good Italian, and I'm from Jersey and I'm a good Italian, and we're gonna be paisans by the end of this and just chit chat about all the art and all the life and all the advocacy that he does as we celebrate this Pride season. We need more Pride than ever, and Daniel is here. I'm so excited to have you here. Hi.
Hi, how are you? It's good to be here.
Wonderful to talk to you because we've watched you. I have watched you. I have seen you in drag. I have seen you on movies. I have seen you in television. And you're just funny. You're just joy.
Oh.
Hey, well, well, growing up in I'm assuming a big, loud Italian family out there in New York. What part and stage in your life did you say, like, I'm going to be an artist? I want to be an actor?
I mean, to me, I think it's always something I've wanted to do. My great grandfather, when he came to from Italy, he tried to buy a house on this block in Brooklyn, and they said, "Oh, we don't want a greasy Italian like you living on this block." And he said, "You son of a bitch, one day I'm gonna own the whole block." And he had 13 kids, and they all bought a house on the block. So I grew up on that block. And so we had cousins on cousins and everyone. So I was one of the first kids of that generation, of the kids who had kids, the ones who moved away. And if I learned my ABCs, I had hundreds of people to perform them to. So since I'm a kid, I talked very early on before I even walked, I could talk. And I mean, I probably would have been like a TikTok baby or whatever,
Yeah.
And people used to think my mom was a ventriloquist because they would go up to her and say, what a beautiful baby. And I'd be like, do you want to come up for a cup of coffee? Like, I would just repeat things that they said. I actually asked the lady once if she wanted to come up for a cup of coffee. She was like, oh my God, did you do that? Like, no, my mom was like a ventriloquist. But so for me, I've always been talking. I always knew that reciting things or telling jokes or performing would make people be happy and like me and give joy. And it was really like my earliest memories were like performing on a stoop or on a coffee table. So I just always was a performer. But I guess it was probably like around the time of like first grade when I started seeing Kids Incorporated and Annie, and I started seeing kids my age actually performing the Mickey Mouse Club. I was like, I want to do this. Like, yes. But my parents didn't really get it at first. I mean, it just was like me relentlessly beating them over the head with I need to be performing bat until I was a teenager that they were like, okay, we get it.
I totally get. Listen, when you did your impersonation of my grandfather, my grandfather Mike DeMeglio is somewhere laughing because he used to say, "Bobby, turn on the TV and put on the fortune teller," and I was like, "What's the fortune teller?" And my grandmother was like, "He means Wheel of Fortune."
Oh
Like
my God, that's great. Yeah,
that
my
was,
grandmother used to say, my sister used to jump in the pool because when we moved to Florida, she was one of those babies that could swim early, you know? And he was like,
yes.
I cannot believe it. She's mayonnaising. She's so mayonnaising.
I love it. It makes us who we are. It makes us who we are.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you move to Florida, you go to school, and then you start before you did movies and before Mean Girls and before all of that, you wrote your own one person show or shows, parody shows in
Well, those were after.
oh, it was after.
I think the first thing I really did was I went to school for acting and musical theater at Florida School of the Arts. And then right out of there one summer, I went to New York to visit my grandmama and audition for this theater in South Florida, which is no longer around, but it's called Broward. It was called Broward Stage Door. And I got 2 musicals in their season. And that was like my kickstart. I was 20 years old and I got Damn Yankees in 1776 in the same season. And I was like, I'm a professional actor. I'm making $280 a week. Let's do this. Like, let's go. Yeah. And so I was so excited. And that was really my kickoff. And from there, I did a bunch of theater in South Florida until I got my first movie, Bully, in South Florida. And then I moved to New York and started, yeah. And then I moved to New York and, you know, after Mean Girls, I moved to LA. And it wasn't even until I was in LA that I started actually doing more things, like creating and writing my own things. And
Well, there's Bully. There's, of course, there's Mean Girls, and we all have grown up and been obsessed. And then Looking was whoo. That's a project for sure. And you've taken there's not just the fun side to you, Daniel. Like you have such a serious acting chops that you throw out there, and then you write things like this, like so. Like Jersey Shore Soul. Who, like, where do you get your inspiration for what projects you take and what sides of your character that you show?
I think it wasn't as Jersey Shore's was like a frustration of me being like, I'm like, I could sing, I'm funny, and I'm Italian, but I don't get to do like all of them at once. Like, I think that's like kind of where that came from. Uh, but I don't know. I think that's where I'm at now. I'm like, if I do something, I want it to be queer, chubby, or Italian. I'm like, that's the first thing I look for to say yes, So I want to like represent. I realize how much representation matters. I mean, in my career, I have been chosen, for lack of a better term, to play things that had a lot of social impact on a lot of people that, like myself, before I became who I am now. Like, I was longing to see other entertainers when I was young be like me, and I didn't see anybody like me. And then I guess just by me working, the osmosis of that like started being very healing. And I learned early on that there was an impact going on, from me performing and me being in stuff. So I was like, oh, I have to keep working.
Yeah, but you show representation to so many people who don't get that representation or visibility. And you've decided, like when you came out with a letter, it was during, right as Mean Girls was hitting, and you've lived your life very publicly since then. And you have done a lot of activism work for HIV, AIDS, and queer charities, a lot. Why is that something that you have taken such a strong stand on?
I felt like I was missing something in my life and I couldn't really put my finger on it. And I was listening to Deepak Chopra and Oprah's 28-day meditation challenge,
I had the app.
which was so frustrating because like they do one and it's only 5 minutes or to 8 minutes, but then like if you don't listen to it in 3 days, it disappears and you pay for them all anyway. So it like kind of gives you that incentive. I think I made it to like 14 of them. Like, but I remember listening to one and it was like about living a life of service. And I was like, huh. I was like, I always thought of myself when I was a teenager, I did a lot of community service, a lot of volunteering. I always was active in the church. I always did all these different things. And I was like, what do I do now? And I couldn't like name one, all the things you're talking about that I do. I couldn't name one thing that I did that was for activism or for my community. And I was like, I'm a good person. And I'd like to say I contribute, but do I? How? And so that made me do some soul searching and how to contribute. I looked up like volunteermatch.com, and it was this great organization that helps you, pair you with things that you want to do. And, then my neighbor became HIV positive. And I had known Quinn Tivy, who is Elizabeth Taylor's grandson, for quite some time through friends he went to college with, mutual friends.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I knew he was Elizabeth Taylor's grandson, but I wasn't like, oh, he's Elizabeth Taylor's grandson. I just was like, oh, that's cool. There's so many like Hollywood royalty in Hollywood that you come across. But I knew what Miss Taylor had done for HIV and AIDS, and that was like so impressive to me. And I was like, hey, maybe you could help me. You must know the right person. And he was like, it's so funny that you're messaging me today, because he lived in Brooklyn. He's like, I'm in LA right now, and I'm going to meet the new managing director, Joel Goldman. He's like, why don't you come with me? And I was like, I'm in the car, like, let's go. And so I went there, and what I was trying to do is, my friend, since he found out that he was HIV positive, he became agoraphobic, like he didn't want to leave the house, and he wasn't taking his meds. And he was like, so I was like, there's got to be some way to get meds delivered to him. And so I right around this time, it was, I guess, coincidence or divine intervention, but like, I had been secretly cast in Looking. They had taken me out to lunch and told me all about the character. I wasn't allowed to say anything yet, but I was like, hey, Joel, I was like, I'm going to be playing this character on HBO. Like, if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Like, help my friend get meds, and I will do whatever you say. And he was like, oh my God, and we could do so much here. And so we got my friend healthy, and he's healthy to this day, which is wonderful. He's undetectable and doing well. But I we opened up this whole can of worms with activism, because they didn't really have a story on TV that was a story about an HIV positive character. Like, we've seen How to Get Away with Murder and Pose and all these incredible stories, but up until Looking, there was a 6-year gap between me and Gloria Rubin on ER, that there were no stories on television. And since we found out about HIV and AIDS, the infections started going down like this. But once the stories stopped being told on TV, they started to rise for the first time ever, and they were getting to alarming rates. I guess in places where people don't have comprehensive sexual education, a lot of their education was coming from television. But we pinpointed the shift to 9/11. When 9/11 happened, everybody stopped wearing red ribbons to the Oscars, and it became more about like, the people who passed there, and and so the shift sort of changed. Plus, at the same time, we were having like incredible advancements in medicine, and people were living longer, happier, more fulfilling lives. But there still was complications. There still was things, that weren't being talked about. I guess that weren't as
Right.
quote unquote sexy topics to like write about. And so I committed to them, to this, and I started going with them to AIDS Watch, which is in Washington, D.C., where all of the AIDS activists from around the country get together for one weekend, go through like a training seminar. So all of them have the up-to-date statistics and information to be able to lobby Congress, which we then do the next week. And so I've been doing that. I just did my 7th time in Washington this April. And because we did 3 years besides that online because of the pandemic, but it went back to in person today. And it's something that I understand, Erykah Badu's term woke and like what it actually means. It means to be like awakened to issues. And I think that that's really the perfect example of what happened to me. Like, once I started hearing insane statistics and things, it was like I couldn't unsee that. I couldn't unhear that. So I met so many people that are living with HIV, and their stories were so compelling. And I mean, what do? You just go, okay, that was nice. I'm not on the show anymore. I'm going to go home and live my life and forget about all my friends and colleagues that I've met. No, I think I'm in it for life. I'm in it until we eradicate the disease. So it became something that just honestly came out of me soul searching for a little more purpose, but now is like become a huge part of my life.
Ooh, I'm like literally, I have goosebumps because you know, we've done shows here with lots of HIV advocates on this, my little show here. And I am such a proponent of the knowledge because I grew up very similar in the a year that you did, where it was Magic Johnson and it was after school specials and it was all of this
A very
information.
special episode of Designing Women or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And now students and young people don't think it exists. They don't get what has gone
It's
through.
actually sad because some students in the South, like in areas like Florida, Alabama, don't even know what HIV is.
Yeah.
They don't talk about it in school. They don't even bring it up. Like, and so that's alarming to me, especially because the US, we make all of the proper medicines, all of the prevention treatments, you know, all of the, and we're still under some third world countries in treatment. So it's,
Well, thank you for, from the world and this country and this community for all the work that you do and putting your name and your influence to something like this.
I'd rather take that. I receive it, but I'd rather pass it on to Miss Taylor. Her, like, honestly, like, Miss Elizabeth Taylor really inspires me every day. Like, I can't. I was a fan, but now knowing her and her family, and I've been given the unique opportunity to be treated like one of the grandchildren when at the Library of Congress and seeing all the letters that she wrote all every president and all of the work that she'd done, and to know that somebody who had been an incredible artist, an incredible personality, and had made news headlines with just whoever she kissed, you know, and to take all of that power and then turn it to something good. She'll have 10% of her likeness and trust fund and all the jewelry and all the perfume and everything, that anytime anyone buys something, Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation, all of their operating costs are taken care of. So every dollar that I've ever raised has went directly to someone whose life has been affected by HIV and AIDS. And I don't know how many charities can really say that. But, you know, I'm not making money that goes to a cheese plate at a gala. I'm making money that goes to, like, the person, you know. So it's been really awesome.
No, she was out there fighting the fight before anyone was brave enough to fight the fight. So she's a sainted woman, truly. And you're right there. So thank you. I want to ask you before I let you go here today, drag. What was it? I know you were a guest star on Drag Race and you got to sit on the panel and be a part of the show. What made you decide I'm going to be the secret celebrity? I'm going to do the show.
I mean, they asked me. Like, I was just like, yeah. I was like, wait. And then also, you know, season 1 was 3 different people competing in one episode, but they were like, this is the first time we're going to do a whole season. And I was like, I mean, it was really, like, unbelievable to be asked to be on your favorite show and compete. Right. I think it would be like if somebody's like a football fan and they were like, you're going to play the Super Bowl. And you're going to have, like, your favorite football player, like, whispering in your ear, telling you what to do. Like, but you don't really play football.
Right.
What a messy situation, you know? So it was just like, okay. Like, I mean, I'm impressed with myself because I kept it going with some of them Glee bitches and, like, a Backstreet Boy. And I'm like, and I'm still getting the moves right. I was like, you know, when you do a musical, which I've done a bunch, like, you're like 5, 6, you're like, what's that step? Oh, and then it goes like this. Okay. And you could, like, ask your partners, but you're in competition, everyone's like 5, 2, 3, and they walk away and you're like, what were we just doing? Like, you know, like, it's not the same thing. It's, and, you know, the one thing that I really have a newfound respect, because it still is my favorite show tonight, I'm going to go watch All Stars at the Eagle. But I feel like the thing that gets me is the race part of it. Nobody really talks about that in the show enough, that every 3 days is a whole episode and you're not sleeping and you're not eating and you're, like, trying to focus on different projects. And the thing that you are, like, so stressed about that your heart beating fast is over in 3 days and you have a brand new thing to be stressed about. Like, and it's just mind blowing. I don't think I was prepared for that, but, you know, the show's doing well, and if it goes on a few years and they have a celebrity all stars, I am ready. This time, I think I will be ready. But the first time, who knew what to expect?
Yes, let's go. I'm ready for it. Well, I know that knowing some queens and now you doing this, you don't understand the work it takes to look, perform, and do.
I can't even imagine if I was coming up, if I had to, like, come up with the own money for my costumes and, like, put all of the effort that the actual queens do for, like, Oh my goodness. And then have to get ready by myself.
Ooh.
Like I was so lucky to have Mayhem Miller like doing my makeup and nails and things like that. Like I felt very privileged. I literally had like the whole entire Hogwarts wizardry and drag magic team like backstage that RuPaul assembled, like all of Ru's actual team, the best of the best, and they still couldn't find a shoe in my size. So I don't know how I'm supposed to do it by myself. You know what I mean? I can't even imagine like what that would be like. But
Well, you are a trip. We stand everything that is you. We do. We do. Go to Instagram, go to What's Up Danny and follow Daniel so that you can stay up to date if he's doing comedy, if he's doing movies, television, performing somewhere. Just be there. Everyone needs to be there. And I get you. I get you. Oh, you're my paisan. I get this. Hey. I'm excited to see what you have next, and thank you for all you do for this community and letting a whole generation of people in the queer community and around the world see and be reflected by you. It's really changing the world.
you're a sweetheart. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. There you have it. Daniel, thank you so much, Marie, for reaching out to Daniel for us and getting Daniel to do the show. We do take guest recommendations. Sometimes it takes a moment. I know Christine's been waiting, and we've had Janelle's guests, and some of you have brought in Darius's guest recommendations have been on the show. Thank you so much for bringing him on because it was an important message we needed to hear for this Pride. Yeah, talented, smart, kind, fun, human. May he continue to provide entertainment and giving people smiles. What he says about the HIV crisis and what he's done he's talking about AMFAR and the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation is so incredibly important to talk about and never forget and keep talking about it for sure till there's a cure. So thank you, Daniel. He's a star. Well, speaking of representation and people that we need to talk about, we had a moment. Oh, thank you, Marie. Thank you so much for Marie. I invited Marie on, and then Daniel changed times, and Marie was going on vacation, and I owe you a moment with someone that you love and adore. So we got a chance to talk to the HBO. Reached out. They did. I was like, oh my goodness, we've become the place to be. The Max, HBO's The Max reached out and wanted us to talk to the director. And there's two directors, and Zachary Drucker and then Kristen Lovell. And we're going to have one and one. They had to do 2 separate days. And I watched the Stroll. And speaking of representation and seeing the world as all of these laws and things get passed about trans rights and trans lives back in the day, how it started, it's streaming right now. So take a peek at this. The director first, Zachary Drucker. So when I got the list of movies that were premiering at Tribeca Film Festival, I saw a film that I needed to find more information about, and I was so lucky and grateful to be able to catch it before you can catch it on HBO and on Max coming up this month. For Pride, we get stuck in the rainbows and the butterflies and the joy, and there's been a group of people, a group of advocates and people fighting on the streets for rights that we all take for granted in the queer community, and this film depicts it perfectly. Zachary Drucker is here to tell us all about. Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much, Robert. What a gift to be in conversation with you.
Oh no, I'm very honored to talk to you because I feel that it's a story that is not told and is not told nearly as much as it should be. How did this project come to you, and what made you decide to say yes, I need to be a part of it?
Well, the synthesis of the Stroll was Kristen Lovell tirelessly working to push this story out for 20 years. And she met Matt Wolf, documentary filmmaker, and our producer on this. And they got the project up and running, and we're looking for a co-director to come in. And I had just finished The Lady in the Dale with HBO Max. It had not even come out yet. I think I was, literally finishing it when I got the call. And meeting with Kristen and Matt, I just had that fluttery feeling of fate. And the rest is history. We worked with a small team over 2 years to build, this story, and it didn't have necessarily a very clear structure, a structure that like presented itself to us immediately. We kind of had to find it and figure out um, how to tell a story about, you know, just a fractured history. Um, yeah.
Well, what was moving to me about the structure, and here is a little bit. It's the Stroll, and it is going to be on HBO. And if you have Max, and everybody is streaming everything, all the cool people are streaming. You can it's live June 21st on HBO, and then you can stream it thereafter. When you were putting the story together, what I was so moved by it is that it's the good, the bad, the ugly, and all in between. It's a sisterhood. It's a group of people who are there supporting each other on their street, but it's also a story of struggle and about a time. And what I was so moved by and did not know, out of my own naiveness, the the gay community, the queer community of that time, the shunning of these trans women on the street,
Yeah.
and the truthfulness that you tell, and how history is kind of reversed in a lot of ways. You see, Mayor Rudy Giuliani cleaning the streets, and you see people like Sylvia Rivera and Marshall P. Johnson on the street fighting. And now to see how time has gone by, you really show this arc of this time. Um,
Yeah.
we as a queer community owe such a great debt of gratitude to everybody who had fought this fight. What was it like to find the people to participate? How did you find them? How did you get them together? And what was it like for them to tell their stories after so many years?
Well, you know, Kristen had maintained a Facebook group or participated in a Facebook group wherein the girls were always in touch with each other. And so it started with a few key interviewees, people that we knew we wanted to talk to, and then other folks joined the fold. And many of the people we talked to had suggestions for other people. And as with any documentary, you talk to as many people as possible and then figure out what your story is and who is essential to it. So that means that you sometimes interview people and don't end up using their interviews in the film. And yeah, once you're filming, you never know how things are going to crystallize. But I think that we landed on a very tight story with a strong narrative engine,
Uh,
and the the people who kind of um, create the picture of the meatpacking district in these eras, the 80s, 90s, and aughts. Um, it was challenging, I think, for many of them to revisit this time. These folks are legends in the community today, having so much history. Um, and I feel like the history of trans people has always been an oral history. It's always been passed down um, anecdotally through storytelling. Um, but we discovered an incredible amount of archival material. I mean, it was a well documented place and time because there were so many artists and photographers in the neighborhood who um, had different levels of investment and interaction in the community, but certainly quote unquote transvestite hookers were ubiquitous in this neighborhood. So anybody who was in New York in those decades has some story.
Well, that was the co-director, and then I had the chance the next day to talk to the creator, Kristen Lovell, who he's talking about, and about how she went from being a member of the Stroll on the street to now being one of the forefront documentary filmmakers out there. And this has been in Sundance to Tribeca to the Outfest across the board. This documentary has won awards for its investigative journalism and telling these tales. Take a peek at when I got to speak to the woman behind the movie, Kristen Lovell. Okay, so as we're talking about new films, especially documentaries and what's going on right now that you can watch and check out, you have to check out something on HBO and the Max that I had the chance to get a sneak peek to talk about and see. What a brilliant documentary! What a brave documentary, and what a documentary you need to be watching and checking out, especially this month in Pride, but across the board. Um, Everyone needs to check it out and see. Kristen is here. The Stroll is what we're talking about, and welcome to the show.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. It's nice to see you and meet you here virtually after watching the documentary and hearing about your story. What I heard that the idea for this was years in the making. When did you come up with the idea that a documentary about the Stroll was something you wanted to do?
Well, I had already been a subject of documentaries, a couple of documentaries actually about life in New York City, being a homeless trans young person. And when, the films came out, like we as the subjects had very limited access to how the story was being crafted and told. And so after that, I kind of went on this journey of becoming a filmmaker and didn't know where it would lead me. And here I am.
And here you are. And it has been picked up by many film festivals and now picked up by HBO and airing this month. When you look at this film, there's a couple of moments for me that watched it. You know, I was born in 1983. I remember the cleaning up of New York City. I remember Rudy Giuliani being elected. I remember all of these things that have happened. And what's so funny to me is there's a switch in history, in my opinion, of the Rudy Giuliani we know today. And they take people like Sylvia Rivera, who's in the film, and the way that she was thought of then and the way that she is now. Do you feel like in time, through stories like yours and the courage of the girls who worked the Stroll and of that time, have kind of righted history and given credit to a lot of the people at the forefront, like yourself, who fought for the rights of all people?
Well, when they talk about history and they always say that the victor gets to tell the tale,
Mm.
right? And in this case, I think, after all of this time and, visibility and recognition of the trans community, we kind of took all the L's back then, and now we're in this phase of thriving and winning, and so we get to tell the tales, you know what I mean? Like the tales that other people tried to come into our communities and tell. And now we have the camera. We're in the director's chair. So the tides have turned. There's a big shift between, Sylvia back then in the Giuliani era and how she's now this icon for trans liberation. And then you have Rudy Giuliani, who's
Yeah. Well, what's what's fascinating to me about the story is that it's all encompassing. There's the good, the bad, the ugly, the sisterhood, the community, and also the discrimination and police brutality and the true tales that you've all lived through. Is really it's beautiful to watch some of it. It is hard to watch some of it, but I know it's the truth. And that's what makes great art. And I know it comes at a cost. Was it hard to get the other girls to speak about it? And was it hard to get this to be made in general?
I mean, yes, it took a number of years, off and on. Like I was collecting images, bookmarking videos, anything that I could find on the area. Um, it was like a 15-year journey, like at the time, no one was interested in a trans filmmaker to give me the space, to create films. So I would kind of make them myself, and I would, make them on my cell phone, and get a camera, find a friend who can edit, and then make this content, which then was specifically for the trans community, about our struggles and problems that we have with media representation. Um, some girls didn't want to step forward. They didn't want to talk about their experiences. And those that did felt that it was long overdue for a story about 14th Street and the Stroll to come to fruition. And so I think them, like, even like, prime example, some people do detransition. And so we have Izzy, aka Kashmir, who I had countless conversations about are they ready to share this element of their lives, because they're going back into the cis heteronormative world. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure it's going to be like when people see the film, it's going to be a big shock to them that they were transsexual women.
When you think about, absolutely, when you think about that time and the movement, and now as relevant as ever, 500 plus bills trying to be passed, 70 laws have already passed against the queer community, specifically targeting trans people. Is it a bittersweet feeling? Do you see the way that we've moved forward, and the way it's fascinating in the film how the gay cis community shunned the trans community back then, and you talk about it very honestly, and how the trans community stepped up for queer rights, and then the gay community kind of almost turned its back at that time. Is it bittersweet to see the strides made, but also the bitter to see the laws and still the misinformation and discrimination against the community?
I believe heavily in our Constitution. In the years that I was out there being harassed and thrown in the back of a car, I knew, like, loitering with the intent to prostitute is not a crime. It's actually a violation. And that was a lawyer that taught me that years ago. And that's how I started to beat some of my cases, you know? So it was never, Giuliani trumped it up to be this crime when in fact it was just a violation, right? And so when we get into like these legislations and things that are trying to be passed, there is still the Constitution. And that, they give the states the opportunity to decide how they're going to pass whatever bill. But in the event that we have a president that makes, trans rights sweeping across the country, then that Constitution comes into play and they can't take away our rights, and I think that's what the real fight is to ensure that that it's across the board, across the United States under the Constitution, you know? And so we just seen Tennessee just, because of the Constitution, you know, they can't have a drag ban. It's so clear as day that we have the freedom of speech and expression. The same way, the other side is complaining about freedom of speech, freedom of speech. Well, we have freedom of expression. So what do you want to do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I hope people all understand is that it's not just about trans rights or queer rights. It's women, it's cis women, it's interracial relationships, it's poverty. It is an attack across people that are not rich, white, straight, cis men across the board. So this documentary is important for all of us to see how our rights can easily be violated. You you tell the truth, and you are funny, and you are honest, and when you sit with the girls, there's a connection and a family that you had to create. What is, do you think, the biggest stigma that society has against sex work and against the trans community in general? What do you hear? What misinformation do you hear often, and how can we clear that up?
Well, and it hurts, like there's a number of things that people feel about trans people, that we're like demons, non-human, it's just, it's so much. And I realize that like dealing with people who are conflicted about liking trans people or because they don't have trans people in their lives, so they're only saying and doing what they're indoctrined to do. I've realized that even some of the toughest nuts can crack. I've had many a conversations with a lot of trans haters, and then in the end of those conversations, the room has switched. I'm a firm believer of freedom of speech, so however I get that message across, and then when I step into these spaces, now it's like, oh, hey, it's you, and remember this conversation and that conversation. So sometimes it has to be even down to the level of, you know, your willingness to engage in these types of nuanced conversations. Um, Not taking everything personally because we have to remember that some people are conditioned that way. The same with, racism and people having exposure or learning or knowing other people of color besides themselves. So we've gotten to this point, right? And it'll only get better from here. You know, what is happening now is a result of paranoia, and that is their response. But
Well, you can't hate someone that you know or love, and you do such a great job humanizing the people. And what I found the most moving and touching, and documentaries and television and the mainstream taking these stories and putting them out there have shown a little. These are people who had nowhere else to turn. They were not able to get a regular job. They were kicked out of their home. They're homeless. And the unfair judgment, no one has walked in the shoes of these ladies and been there. And I think what you do is show us all that the humanity and the fight for just a little bit of respect and some piece of this pie that is this country. And it is something that everyone needs to see.
thank you.
Well, there you have it. You can check out The Stroll. It's on HBO Max right now. It's really a fascinating doctrine and tale that's also, this is not a political thing. I don't think people's gender, I don't think people's sexuality, I don't think people's relationship should be political, but it's political. And anyone who's been against this community and again has gotten their clock cleaned in court, anything against the Constitution. We're a country that's founded on the Constitution, the right to freedoms, the right to free speech, freedom of expression, free press, etc., free elections, like the law today with the conservative Supreme Court siding against states being able to do whatever they want in an election. It's important that we are all allowed to be fully free, individualized citizens in this great nation called the United States. If you want to check that show out, it is a great documentary. Thank you. Yeah, fascinating, really fascinating and very interesting. What they have, the archival footage is amazing. You see Sylvia Rivera herself and that footage. Must see. Thank you for sharing with the world and taking vulnerability and honesty to the next. No room for hate. Love is love, no matter what. I was so grateful to spend Pride with you every single week. Thank you to my Roundtable family. Hey, Kevin, my Roundtable family for being here every single week. I appreciate you all for being here and joining me. I also want to just say thank you for everyone who's been a supporter and a fan of Pride and has gone out and marched and worked and done whatever you all have done. Christine says, commend all the guests for their courage, compassion, and effort in bringing this story to life. Thank you. I appreciate you. I've had so much fun with different comedians. We started this month with Angelica Ross talking about her Purr song and Kaylin Allen being just the best. And then we got as serious as we could today talking about AIDS and AMFAR, Elizabeth Taylor Foundation, and the Stroll and trans community and trans rights. At the end of it all, we are just trying to accept and love one another the best that we can. So happy Pride. Thank you all for everything that you do. I have to share, we do an IG show beforehand, and Marie, who's watching, this Marie right here, that Marie, said, what did you think of, I was talking about Patti LaBelle did the tribute to Tina Turner. And she asked the question, do we think Patti LaBelle should have memorized the words or relied on the teleprompter? And then it looks like people stood in front of the teleprompter and she couldn't see the words, etc. So I was, while the interviews were going on, I go on to see a notification to make sure the show is playing. And someone puts this. And it says, I must have rehearsed my lines 1,000 times until I had them memorized. That's funny. I must have rehearsed my lines 1,000 times until I had them memorized. Y'all are funny on the internet. Y'all are terrible. I look forward to seeing you next week. I'll be here with you live Thursday, and I'm going to show you clips of the Tribeca Film Festival. It was the first time we've ever been invited to the Tribeca Film Festival, and we have interviews with all sorts of fun people. And it should be a good old time, and you're not going to want to miss it. Plus, Alex Winter of Bill and Ted and of Lost Boys is going to be on this month. Plus, Billy Stritch and Jim Caruso and more. Stay tuned to the Roundtable the whole month of July. We'll be here with bonuses as well. I love you all for watching. Thank you all for being here. I thank you for celebrating Pride with me, and I thank you for celebrating every single week with me. 76 plus 54 of the other shows for 125 plus times with you all, you crazies. And I can't do the show without you. So love one another, support one another. I'll see you next week on Thursday. Back to our regularly scheduled night. Bye, everyone. Wait a second. Hold on. Hold your horses, America. Hold on. Marie said, don't forget to play Last Dance from my Pride. Are you calling for an encore, Marie? Marie is calling. My mother says, I agree with you, Robert. Thank you for all you do for Pride, and Darius too, and many others. Love you all. Oh, Mama Rose. She's so sweet. And she packed up my whole house. Look, she did all this. We're moving and packing and stuff here. And get yourself a Mama Rose. All right, so Marie wants Last Dance, and Christine wants Last Dance, and everyone wants Last Dance. And I'm going to show everyone, I'm going to show the world my version of Last Dance the last day of June. But this is our last roundtable together, right? So should we go out with a bang? Well, if you could pan out and see the view that I saw from this show, if the camera could turn around, what you would see is Christine up dancing. She had on like a glittery rainbow shirt. And then if you looked to my left, the right side of the stage, if you're sitting in the audience, Marie was right there. She was dow, pow, doing it. We threw a party. We threw a big old party at 54 Below. So you know what? In the spirit of giving and in the spirit of this moment, since we have 4 minutes left, I just might have it downloaded and ready to go. I totally forgot. Thank goodness for you all. Last Dance, happy Pride, and I'll see you all next week. Last Dance.
Yes, it is.
Last chance for love. I'm keeping you all. You're fun. Yes, it's my last dance for romance tonight. Oh, I need you by me, beside me, to guide me, to hold me, to scold me, 'cause when I'm bad, I'm so bad. This is your last chance, y'all. You ready? So let's dance. Let's dance. The last dance. The last dance. Let's dance. Let's dance. The last dance. Let's dance. Let's dance. The last dance tonight. Last dance. It's my last chance for love. Ooh. Yes, it's my last dance for romance tonight. You look good. Oh, I need you by me, beside me, to guide me, to hold me, to scold me, 'cause when I'm bad, I'm so bad. So let's dance. Let's dance. The last dance. Let's dance. Let's dance. The last dance. Let's dance. The last dance tonight. I can be sure that you're the one for me. Well. All that I ask is that you dance with me, dance with me, dance with me. Am I even worth a dime a dance?
Yes!
How about just half a chance tonight? Please, mister, can't you see? This is my last chance
for romance. That's right.